So my question is about climate change, and in some of these projects, has that been part of the conversation when determining what height to, or what level of protection to proceed for the community?
Sarah, you have to introduce yourself.
Oh, sorry, I'm Sarah, and I work for Multnomah County Drainage District.
Yes, climate change has been part of the conversation. It's really been driven in California by the state, which has been very concerned about climate change and has required that as a condition of getting state funds, local communities meet certain standards. So I don't know what the latest science is here on climate change. The latest science in California on climate change is the climate's changing, and we're not sure what the effect is going to be. We know there will be less snow. Less snow means less reservoirs, less storage available in the mountains. But if that comes with less rain, it might not be an impact. If it comes with more rain at a different time, it might or might not be an impact. So what California is doing is just trying to build additional margins of safety in. And one of the most common ones that's being used in California is to simply say, if you're designing to a 100-year event and your elevation is X, or if you're designing to a 2 and your elevation is Y, we want you to add another foot on top of that. And so that extra foot has been the standard in California for dealing with climate change. Now, there are other ways that it's being dealt with as well. Again, as I mentioned, under seepage and through seepage are significant problems in California. And so one of the analyses that's done on these levees is they'll determine what the water surface elevation is, X, and then they'll add the foot. So now it's X plus a foot. And they'll do the through seepage and under seepage analysis at that elevation. And that elevation is still at least 3 feet from the top of the levee so that you can have freeboard. But then California is saying, as an extra level of resiliency, we want these levees to actually be able to survive water up to the very top. But if we say run the calculations with the water at the very top at the same level of safety or standard of safety, they'll never pass. So I don't remember the exact numbers, but let's say that the standard level of safety is 1 for this elevation. They'll say, now do an analysis at what they call HTOC, hydraulic top of levee. And they'll say, run it again all the way at the top, but now you just have to meet 0.7. So they're saying, let's push it a little bit more, give it an extra foot, let's run another analysis at the top, and get to the point that we can really feel confident. The last thing that they're starting to talk about but haven't done yet is they're starting to say, we want to strengthen the backside of levees. We want to get to the point that any levee can survive an overtopping and the levee won't wash away. And so they're starting to talk about how do you harden the back of the levees? How do you make sure that, like in Katrina, when the water came over the top and then eroded under at the base and that caused some of the flood walls to come down, that doesn't happen. So again, they haven't imposed that yet, but that's the next level of the conversation.
Yeah. Kevin.
Thank you, Steve. And thank you, Scott. Again, I'm Kevin Bryce with the Corps of Engineers, and really I have a comment more than a question. I appreciate your last bullet there as far as the federal partnership. And I just want everyone here to know, although as I've listened to where you're from, and in many cases I believe we already have partnerships, I just want you to know from the Corps' perspective, in Portland District, we do want to partner with you all. And we do want to partner and bring to the table what federal resources and federal, within our authorities and stuff, to be able to support as best we can. And I just wanted to take a moment to introduce my battle buddy here, Lance Helwig. Lance is our Chief of Engineering and Construction. Lance, stand up for a second if you would, please. Lance is our Chief of Engineering Construction and our Levee Safety Officer. So Lance has the team of levee experts that reach out and work with you all on day-to-day businesses as Scott was describing. And I just wanted to make sure that you knew that he was here, and we want to work closely with you. So if you have any questions or anything afterwards, you know, Lance is our technical guy. He's our final guy on technical calls, and we just want to work and partner with you as you've suggested, Scott. So thank you.
Kevin, why don't you take a minute and just describe what your job is within the Corps, because the structure of the Corps is alien to many people.
Sure, and it's alien to many folks. It's a very complicated, it's not really teasing. My role, the Corps of Engineers worldwide is divided into, there's 45 or so districts. And when you look at the districts across the nation, we are responsible for either civil works, where it's federal water resources, we support the military, or we do environmental cleanup. And so when you look at districts, we're assigned those missions. In Portland, we are a civil works only district. So therefore, our responsibilities have to do with support to the federal water resources and how we use as a federal government the water resources in our area. And that's what the Portland District's mission is. We are commanded, we are part of the Department of the Army, the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers, commanded by Army colonels. And we have an Army colonel who's our commander, and they rotate every 3 years. We get a new Army commander, just like the Chief of Engineers is an Army 3-star general. I am the Portland District's commander's civilian deputy. He has a military deputy and a civilian deputy. So one of the roles that I play is continuity with the commanders as they move through. Another role that I play is stakeholder relationships. And a third role that I play is integrating our district into the complicated federal processes for appropriations, for authorities, et cetera. So as a civilian deputy, that's the role that I play. Lance is, as I said, our Chief of Engineering and Construction. So we have a wide skill base in the Portland District that can do almost, I mean, it is amazing the engineering skills and capability that we have surrounding water resources. And so any of the projects that we have, we own and operate Bonneville, the Dalles, John Day dams, up and down the Willamette Valley. Those, we have many projects, 16 projects in the valley as examples. All the engineering, and when we do construction, those folks work for Lance. He is also our dam safety officer, so to ensure that our projects maintain safety, and finally our levee safety officer for levee. So probably a little bit more than you wanted, but those are the roles that we play, and that's kind of, hopefully that answered and helped out, Scott. Thank you.
Thanks.
Next question. Mark Wigginton, Peninsula One Drainage District. Can you talk about timeline of community involvement? It's obviously so important, but is it, successes and failures, is that before you've created new agency structures or after? What's worked?
It is an iterative process. You need to get the public involved early, but you need to know what you're getting them involved in. And so if you're talking about creating an agency, you need to make sure that when you go to the city council or the county commissioners or the Penn District 1 board to talk about it, that you don't have that regular public attendee who comes to those meetings who's suddenly going to be railing against it if you don't know what you're talking about. On the other hand, you don't want to get so far ahead of them. So I'm giving a real wishy-washy answer because I think it's a really wishy-washy situation. I believe that, like anything else that government achieves, it's about leadership, and that means you need some leaders who are going to run with it, and whether they're on the city council or a special district member like yourself or a county commissioner. And I think you have existing public communication structures that are out there already. And you need advocates. You need to find the 3 or 4 people who often are former board members, who are connected in the community, who don't want to be on the board anymore, but are willing to start carrying your message out. Hey, we've got a problem, but we got a solution too. The solution is we need to create an entity to focus on this. We don't quite know what it's going to look like. We don't quite know who's going to be part of it, but we know that much. We know we have a problem. We know that the solution involves creating an entity. And then you start going out with that message and getting people interested and involved in it. And then over time, you're building that cadre of people who care and that are informed. The reality is, at some point with the public, my experience is you give them so much information that they kind of step back and trust you because it's almost impossible to process it. And only the people who are really caring will then stick with you through the process. But no surprises. You just can't have surprises. So a wishy-washy answer for, I think, a wishy-washy situation.
So I'd like to switch gears for just a little bit here. We had people raise their hands about where they were from at the beginning of the session. And with your indulgence, what I'd like to do, and with everybody's indulgence, I'd like to ask some of the folks who are here, particularly from some of the other and smaller districts or areas that are facing this issue, to just please in 2 minutes or less to kind of describe where you're from, what the situation that you're facing, and one of the issues or questions or problems or barriers that you are facing, partly for everybody's edification here, but also then, Scott, for you to respond to as well. So anybody like to start off with that? I know that there are people from, yeah.
Thanks, Steve. Jonathan Wright, City of Reedsport. We don't have 10 miles of levee. We have just over 3 miles of levee that protects our main commercial corridor in our area. It protects our main businesses, even our downtown, which there's been a lot of effort to try to revitalize. Really what is Reedsport is behind this earth, and actually there's 3 different compositions: earthen, sheet pile, and concrete wall. Where we are currently at, it's interesting that this is brought up right now. We went to City Council last night. We're authorized to put out a RFQ. We have decided that going, no offense, with the Army Corps of Engineers is going to be cost prohibitive. We have some serious settlement issues with our levee. In conversation, having them actually do the certification would require a lot more earthwork that a small, economically challenged community cannot possibly achieve right now. Our goal, one, is to prevent the flood insurance into our downtown area, including a lot of our lower income housing areas. So that's the focus. And I tell you, having that cloud over a community and what it does to us economically, because the real estate agents have to say, hey, Costco, you want to go down there, be advised that if they don't get their levee certified, then you're going to be subject to NFIP standards. And if you develop something now, we're talking about a community that was never actually created with NFIP standards involved. We're behind a levee system that in some places is 18 feet tall. It provides flood protection up to 8 feet. These are houses behind that are 8 feet within the base flood elevation or at base flood elevation. So we're talking about significant cost. We've been talking a lot, and I give a lot of credit to Christine Shirley. She's come and talked to City Council a number of times. Really a helpful resource. If you haven't met her, please introduce yourself. And that was really helpful in figuring out that we have a major issue and that we need to start moving forward with it. We do have something on the ballot that is hopefully going to generate some revenue so we can get this started. We are going to send out the RFQ and start talking to those engineering firms, looking at least an initial cost of about $700,000, and then we know then the problems start. Then we're going to be looking at how we fix what we know is likely out there, which we're really going to be relying on the state, which we're really excited to hear that there's some legislation possibly out there that might provide some assistance. So, you talk about partnerships. We're a small city. City Council is behind us. The county has at this point somewhat kind of they have their own economic woes and they're looking at it as well. We're not going to get involved in your economic woes at this time, but maybe in the future we'll have a conversation. But we have some pretty strong allies with our Army Corps of Engineers, as well as the state level FEMA representatives. So we're moving forward. Don't really have any questions. This was very enlightening. Basically expanded a little bit on the knowledge that we already had. We've been at this about 2 years now, really trying to get our head around, the Army Corps standards and the FEMA standards, because there is definitely a difference there. If I had to have a wish, it would be that somebody would align those standards. I know that Congress has already given a mandate to align the standards, and that hasn't occurred. It would be great if there was some cohesion there. So that's it.
Thanks. That's all right. And actually, before I ask Scott to respond to that, Christine, could you just stand up and so people know who you are? Christine Shirley from DLCD. Great.